Greetings. My name is John Murray. I'm the pastor here at First Baptist Church in Hawthorne, Nevada. Last Sunday, I put out a video talking about how we were going to prioritize what kinds of ministries we begin and how we look at what we do first. We looked at Acts chapter 2. Today we want to look at Acts chapter 15 to figure out how do we make those decisions. Well, we could do it a couple of different ways. I'm the pastor, so I make the decision, which isn't a really very good idea. What we're going to do is we've taken some direction here from Acts chapter 15 and looked at how they're doing it, and we're going to follow a lot of their examples in this. Why recreate the wheel? They've already got a process here in place, so we're gonna use a lot of that. Here in Acts chapter 15, we find that there were some who came along and said, in order to be saved and in order to follow God, you have to be circumcised. If you're not circumcised, you can't be saved. Got to follow the law. And Acts chapter 15, verse 2 says, "And after Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension and debate with them," I would love to hear those conversations. They no doubt got pretty heated about the whole thing because this is a big deal. As we look at what's going on with the coronavirus, that also is a big deal. A lot of questions, a lot of information that seems to be changing at times. Should I wear a mask? Should I not wear a mask? Does this spread like crazy or doesn't it? And just there are a lot of people with a lot of ideas and thoughts, and we need to pay attention to them and be gentle with them, but have dissension with them. That's healthy. And the idea of just having dissension, we should never have dissension. No, that's not true. There's a place for discussion, a place for even strong debate, which no doubt this was. So they decided, we aren't going to settle this by ourselves. Let's make this a wider conversation. And so they sent some of their leaders, probably from both sides, no doubt, down to Jerusalem to discuss it with some of the people down there. Now, why did they do that? Were the people of Jerusalem any more spiritual or any more godly or any more wise or authoritative? And the answer is no, they weren't. But what they did was they involved a wider group of people who had knowledge about the situation. And so they got together. It says in verse 6, Acts 15:6, the apostles and elders gathered together to consider this matter. And after there had been much debate again, and I'm certain that this was not just a very quiet, low-key debate. I'm sure there were very strong opinions and feelings on this. Peter stands up and talks about his situation. And after he talks about how he had shared the gospel with Cornelius, a Gentile, and Cornelius spoke in tongues as they did on the day of Pentecost, he said they were saved by faith. They were saved by grace. They weren't saved by following the Old Testament law. And all the assembly fell silent, and they listened to Barnabas and Paul as they related the same kind of thing from their ministry journey. And at the end, James, who was one of the leaders, certainly one of the significant leaders in Jerusalem, stands up and says, here's kind of a summary of what we think. And he made a statement and appealed to Scripture. And he says, therefore my judgment, verse 19, therefore my judgment is that we should not trouble those of the Gentiles who turn to God, but should write to them to abstain. And he gives three things that he says, this doesn't save you, but this will save a lot of problem within the church. These are some cultural, deep cultural issues. And so if you could avoid this, that'd be good. And the group agreed with him. and they came to a consensus on this. It's interesting that even though James gets up and says, here's what we should do, as we look later in the chapter, we find that they changed even a little bit more. And so even after James makes his point, they continue to discuss this. So what does that have to do with coronavirus? Well, we're in the same kind of a situation. We aren't dealing with salvation, but we're dealing with, truthfully, some life and death matters. And so we shouldn't go into this flippantly. We shouldn't go into this arrogantly. We should go into this with a wide array of counselors. And that's what we plan on doing. This Sunday morning, we are planning on having unfortunately, a very select group of people get together. We are still limited to only less than 10 people, and so at this point we have 8 people who are scheduled to be there. If I haven't contacted you, it's not that I don't like you or don't trust you or don't need your opinion, but I've tried to put together as wide a group of people as possible. We're trying to represent the base, the hospital, the county, cause, care and share, the utilities, as wide an exposure of people as we can come up with, and also as wide ministries represented as possible. So we're going to have Sunday school teachers, Bible study leaders. We're all concerned about services, children's church, even the Gabs ministry. And so we're going to put all of these things together. We've got representatives to touch on each point in each place. And so we have about as diverse a group as I can come up with and still stay under 10 people. So if you weren't invited, it's not that you aren't important, but I have to carefully select who we can use to make sure that everything is covered. So what are we going to do on Sunday? First of all, we're not going to lay down the law and say, this is what we say we will do and don't anybody argue with us. There's always room for discussion. But we're going to discuss how we do services, everything from when they are to how we come into the church, to how we sit within the church, to what parts of the service are going to be included. We're going to talk about kids' ministries. This is a really tough one. And frankly, I have been reading everything I can read and talking to everybody I can talk to and listening to everybody who knows far more than me. This is a hard one, and I'm not quite sure how to do this. Right along with that, we're going to be talking about VBS and if we want to do it and how we can do it. I'm supposed to be talking to Larissa sometime very quickly here and get her input on this as well and her thoughts. We're going to be talking about how we do Bible studies, and frankly, Bible studies may be a very soon issue, something that we incorporate quite quickly. We're going to be looking at the Gabs ministry and what to do with the community out there. A lot of different issues and a lot of questions about how exactly and when exactly and if exactly we do these things. I'm not smart enough to make all those decisions myself. I need input, and we as a body need input. And so this is my idea and how we come up with a solution. Frankly, there is no right or wrong answer in most of this, and so we'll be weighing positives and negatives. And here, after we get done on Sunday, I intend to put together a little video again talking about how we intend to do this. Our problem is we don't have a lot of, in fact, right now we have no identified cases of the virus here in our community. We've had 4, but 3 have been asymptomatic and 1 is recovered, which is a great news. But we need to be aware that we still need to take precautions because, frankly, I'm very concerned that if this gets into our community, it's going to be a tough thing. Just look at what happened in one of the rural counties in Georgia, if you have any questions about what's going on. Very, very bad situation there. And also, we're going to try and put together kind of a flexible, agile process. If we continue to see no virus in the county, we'll maybe lean one way. If we start seeing virus, we'll lean another way, and we'll put out kind of a here's how you come to church kind of list. And things will have to be different for a while. But again, go back to the discussion from Acts chapter 2. That's what we're going to try and accomplish as quickly as possible and as widely as possible and as safely as possible. If you have questions, I'd love to talk to you about those things. Give me a phone call, drop a text, leave a message here, and I'll get back to you. We're going to get through this. And God is continuing to work in some really cool ways. I just can't wait to talk to you about what we're seeing in Celebrate Recovery right now, and some of the decisions and discussions that are going on. It's a good thing. But in the meantime, we have to be wise. We have to be safe, and particularly think about those who are vulnerable in our community, and how we should handle all this. So that's our plan. We're going to meet together on Sunday. If you haven't been invited, please don't show up. We've got a group, and just to give you a kind of a heads up, that group includes John Kipke, Greg, Evan, myself, Wanda, Don. I just heard this morning from Janice Scott, that she's going to be there. And so we've put together a pretty wise group, and we'll come up with some ideas, put them out, and if we have to adjust and fiddle with them a little bit, we can do that. These aren't set in stone, but this is our process, and this is how we're going to go about making the decision. Very similar to the way that they did in the book of Acts. Different situation, different circumstances, different question. But we'll follow pretty much the same process. As always, I look forward to seeing you again face to face, hopefully very soon. In the meantime, it's good to be able to converse this way and over social media. Look forward to seeing you again soon. We pray for you frequently.